Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Marilyn and I'm feeling better. I'm walking again, slowly. In case you didn't know, this whole month was really hard. I was off my feet with a knee injury from over exercising, and I thank you so much for everyone who sent me such wonderful healing thoughts and vibes and good wishes. And I wanted to do a video today for a few reasons. One is that tomorrow is Passover, so happy Passover for those who celebrate, but there's a lot of work involved in cooking and stuff, and I wanted to get a video out. But the second big reason is that the event that I'm talking about is one that's very special to my heart. It's nonfiction. And this event, People April, was started by Elizabeth, my friend from Bookings and Books, and because she felt basically that nonfiction wasn't talked about enough on BookTube, and I'm a great big nonfiction lover, especially memoir, and there are two other booktubers who joined Elizabeth on this venture of People April, and this is the third year. And the other two are also good friends of mine, Roth from Scalladandling about the books, and they were joined this year by my good friend Brian from Bookish Texan, who wrote a nonfiction book. I also wrote a memoir more than 15 years ago, so I guess we love memoirs. We love autobiographies, memoirs, and there's a lot in that category that you can add to, letters, diaries, autobiographies. I mean, you name it, there's so much nonfiction that's about people. So I wanted to put my 2 cents in because, like I said, I love people. I should say I love People April. Before I start talking about People April books, some suggestions that I have, I just wanted to tell you about, again, about my read-along of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. I am doing this as print and my Kindle, both, and getting different experiences out of both. So I'm enjoying this experience so much, and my good friend Jack of Spread Book Joy has finished it already, and we are talking on Voxer about it. I'm not finished, but it really resonates so much with my childhood, but also with so many other people. And as Jack told me, and probably she'll talk about this on her channel, but with her life and her life experiences and how she relates to the book. So now I'm understanding a little bit better about why this book resonates with so many people and why it's a classic. And I just wanted to say that since I was born maybe 50 years, only 50 years after this book is set, and I lived in the exact same neighborhood, I have an extra thrill about it because they're mentioning the streets that I lived on and things that were when I was a small kid. When I was a small kid, I remember things that my parents talked about that happened, years back. So even though a lot of it is really was non-existent when I was brought up in the 50s, some of it is still quite familiar to me. And also I'm noticing things, reading it again, that I had forgotten. And Jack told me that she mainly watched the film. And watching the film, well, it doesn't go as far as the book goes. In case you want to join me, I'll still put a link in the description box. But now on to People April. And the first book I'm going to talk about is about another event that just finished. One of my favorite events. I wasn't a co-host this year, But in that event, March Mystery Madness, they honored a former booktuber who passed away sadly at a very young age, Alice, from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. And even though I talked about this book before, I think Alice, of all of the booktubers that I had been listening to at that time, watching at that time, gave me the most suggestions of books that I had to buy because they were so hard to buy in the US. And one of my favorites is a sort of memoir, and that is Dear Reader, The Comfort of and Joy of Books, and by Cathy Rentzenbrink. And I'll show you the book in a minute, but there's a blurb says, I love this book. I'm so desperate for you all to share in its wonder, Elizabeth Day. And the book is also one of my favorite covers. And I'm just going to show it to you. It has gold lettering, and it's just, I think it's one of my favorite covers. So, Dear Reader, and I'm not going to go, it's what it says on the tin, basically. And as long as she can remember, Cathy Rentzenbrink has found and lost and found herself in stories. Growing up, she was rarely seen without her nose in a book and read in secrets long after lights out. Now, how many people that watch BookTube are booktubers or subscribers of BookTube feel the same way? And I did too, always my nose in a book. So in this book, it says, if you love books, if you need companionship during a different patch in your life, or you simply want to be taken by the hand by a writer who is kind, wise, funny, generous, insightful, and profound, then this book is for you. And she goes into a lot of books and how they affected her life. And I'm always turning to this book, and I think of Alice when I do. So please get this book. I'd say buy this book because it's a keeper. So that's my first suggestion. It also has to do with our friend Alice and her love of wonderful books, including mysteries. But now I'm giving you 4 books. So my second book, I haven't heard this book on BookTube in a very long time. And if you know Mental Health May, which Kim from Middle of the Book March and I co-host, this is a good book for that. And it's also a good book about, it's a memoir. And in fact, it says it on the cover. It's A Memory Palace by Mira Batok. And let me show you the cover first. It's also a very nice cover. There's a girl. And I'm trying to think of where she's standing, but she's standing in the shadow, which shadows are also very meaningful, I think. And there's a picture of her. Well, this book was not written recently. So this book, and I should have checked this before, and so well written, by the way. It was a bestseller. So this book was printed in 2011. And it says it's a heartbreaking, exquisitely told story of a daughter's struggle to find beauty and order in the distorted, chaotic world created by her mother's delusions. And who wrote that? Jeanette Walls, best-selling author of The Glass Castle and Half-Broke Horses. Now, I must be one of the only, not only, but maybe the minority of people who didn't love The Memory Palace, but The Glass Castle, Memory Palace. This is The Memory Palace. And so this is what it says as a blurb. People have abandoned their loved ones for much less than you've been through, Mira Batok is told at her mother's memorial service. It is a poignant yet truthful observation about the relationship between Mira, her sister, and their mentally ill mother. Before she was struck with schizophrenia, piano protégé Norma Hare, Herr, H-E-R-R, was the most vibrant personality in the room. But as her mental state deteriorated, the burden she placed on her family became unbearable. Although she loved her daughters and did her best to raise them well, Norma began to speak less about Chopin and more about her fear that her daughters would be kidnapped, murdered, or raped. And this is told very sensitively about mental illness. And as a child of a mentally ill mother, this was a keeper for me. And I really think that more people should read this book. I don't think it's as well known as some other memoirs about mothers and daughters, or daughters of mentally ill mothers, but this is so sensitive and portrays mental illness with dignity. And I think that's what I liked about it most, as well as, of course, it related to me. So I think I'm going to give this a reread on Mental Health May. Now, the third book I talked about enough, and that was because it was my favorite book, and I'm thinking it's 2023 maybe. And I think more people should read this book as well, because I have on my shelf most of my memoirs that are keepers are Holocaust memoirs or stories about more personal stories about that period of time. But I've never read a book like this before, and it's Underground in Berlin. I'm going to show you the cover. This is a fascinating book on so many levels, It was orally told to her son when she was dying. Her name was Marie Jalowicz Simon, translated by Anthea Bell, and the foreword and afterwards by her son, who she told the story to. And it's Underground in Berlin, if I haven't said it, a young woman's extraordinary tale of survival in the heart of Nazi Germany. She was one of the U-boaters who were hiding in plain sight. And I just have to tell you a little bit about it, because it says thriller-like, and it reads like, I don't know why this hasn't been made into a movie. And maybe it has and I've missed it. In 1942, Marie Jalowicz, a 20-year-old Jewish Berliner, furtively resolved to do everything in her power to avoid the concentration camps. She removed her yellow star, took on an assumed identity, and disappeared into the city. In the years that followed, Marie took shelter wherever it was offered, living with the strangest of bedfellows, from circus performers and committed communists to Nazi loyalists. As Marie quickly learned, however, compassion and cruelty are often two sides of the same story. Now, what else is interesting about it, beside all of that, is that she wouldn't talk about, after the war, she would never talk about her experiences. She continued her studies and became a full professor of the literary cultural history of classical antiquity at the Humboldt University of Berlin. Rarely spoke about her past. But before her death, her son, Hermann Simon, director of New Synagogue Berlin Centrum, recorded Marie telling the story of her war-torn experiences. And it was put together from those tapes written by the writer Irene Strattonworth and her son, Hermann Simon. And I think, like I said, that was a lot of information, but I think if you know more, you'll know why this book is so exciting, nerve-wracking, and wonderful, because we know she survived. And it says she was a fighter, blessed with an even temper, optimism, a ferocious will, a clear sense of what life could offer her, and a readiness to laugh at herself. This is an amazing book, my favorite book of 2023, I think. And I think it would fit into People April perfectly. Like I said, I don't think it is talked about at all, really, on BookTube. So have I talked about it enough? My last book is another book that I don't think I ever heard on booktube, and it's a keeper for me. So I don't have a huge bookshelf. So when it's a book that I would keep through all my unhauls that I've done in the last 4 years, I think that a book has to resonate with me in some way. And this book had all of those ingredients. And it's called Down These Mean Streets by Piri Thomas, or Thomas. A report from the gut and heart of a submerged population group. It claims our attention, an emotional response because of the honesty and pain of a life led in outlaw fringe status. And the New York Times Book Review said that. And let me just show you the cover. So I bought this not long after I joined BookTube because I was thinking about books that I wanted to keep forever, and this is one of them. Let me tell you a little bit about Piri Thomas and why his story resonates with me. So he was born to a Puerto Rican mother. I was born to a Puerto Rican father and a Cuban father. His childhood neighborhood in Spanish Harlem section of New York City was riddled with crime and violence. And my sister was brought up in Spanish Harlem. She's my half-sister, but I went there often. It was a little bit later than Piri Thomas's time, but it was still riddled with crime and violence. According to Thomas, children were expected to be gang members at a young age, and Thomas was no exception. So he was also exposed to racial discrimination because of his Afro-Latino heritage. As an Afro-Latino man, Piri Thomas not only experienced racial discrimination based on his complexion within his neighborhood, but also within the ingrained colorism in his household. And before I tell you more about the book, I just wanted to say that colorism is something that I've experienced on the opposite end in my own family, because there was really no such thing as Afro. People didn't say that in this time. It wasn't a term that was really known. And when I say I experienced colorism, my grandmother had this idea because she was dark complected, and I looked like my father, who was very light. In fact, my mother, who wasn't Puerto Rican or Latina at all, was much darker. So my grandmother favored me over the other grandchildren, which caused a lot. Believe it or not, it not only caused turmoil to the other grandchildren, but they turned against me because, of course, they're not going to turn against their grandmother, or they couldn't. My grandmother was a very strong woman, but she did have that idea that the color was somehow white was better than a darker skin, which I'm not sure if it still happens as much in the Latino community. But there's a section in here that's very famous where he goes down south with his brother, who's a white Cuban Puerto Rican, and they get into a physical fight. And so what does it say about it? It says that this classic confessional autobiography was first published in '67, and firmly in the tradition of Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice and the autobiography of Malcolm X, Piri Thomas, a man of African, like I said, and Puerto Rican descent, living in Spanish Harlem, powerfully relates how he was lost even within his own family and sought his identity through drugs, street fighting, and armed robbery, nearly becoming yet another statistic by the age of 22. His downward spiral from the barrio to Sing Sing is keenly and wisely described, as is his redemption, one found through suffering, endurance, and desire for understanding. And the other book that he wrote was 7 Hard Years, where he was in Sing Sing for, and I read that book, but I'm not exactly 100% sure, except that it was about his descent into what they just said, drugs. But after he transformed, he helped people for the rest of his life, and I think he just passed away in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, 2011. And he also was one of the first poets and writers in the Nuyorican scene. If you've never heard of Nuyorican, it's just a New York Puerto Rican, and it was very big, where poets and writers would write in Spanish and English together, and he was a big proponent of that. And also he did lectures all over the world, really, all over the United States, as well as address the key points that he wanted to address, which was democracy and racial supremacy. So this book is a very important book and very honest, and I think that it really, okay, I paid $11 for it, so, and it was, I don't know if it was used or new, but I think I want to reread this. Maybe not this month, but I did want to show it to you because I think that in my shelf, this has a prominent space. Well, I also wanted to apologize because my last time, I didn't even realize my mic went off, and yeah, thank you so much for those of you who stuck with it until the end. Yeah, as you can see, I'm feeling much better. I'm walking. If you look at the thumbnail, you'll see that I'm walking without a cane, slowly. I still get pain at night because, well, that's when people usually feel pain. But I did want to thank the hosts and of People April, because we don't talk, I agree with Elizabeth, we don't talk enough about nonfiction, and not everyone just reads memoirs, mostly like me. There's so many other kinds of nonfiction about people that are, you know, you could read some diaries or notes from Jane Austen. It could be history, it could be war, about certain people who were military people. I mean, there's the gamut from what I showed you and what maybe some of the other hosts and other booktubers have to share with you this month. So even though I'm a little late to the party, I'm still here, and yeah, I'm still here. And I don't know if I mentioned to you, but I'm hoping to spend a few days in the UK and meet with my good friend Jack and maybe others who live in my UK friends. And I'm hoping that I can actually walk. But if I can't, I'll take if I can't walk too far, I'll take taxis. And I do want to do a little bookstore shopping, bookshop, maybe some charity shops. Who knows? I mean, that's when I really do most of my buying, is when I travel. And this has been a hard start to the year for me. But I want to thank everyone who stayed with me, who liked, comment, and subscribed, you know, to my channel these last 4 years. And probably until next week, I will film another video. But I wanted to just wish you a wonderful weekend and just say to you, as I always do, because I live in Hawaii for 45 years and I'm called a Kama'aina, aloha.